Hello everyone and welcome to another devlog video for Homegrown, the casual farming game I'm making using my own engine, and this week I'm going to be adding some new types of objects into the game. So I've got three new types of objects that I want to implement this week. Firstly, I'd like to implement multi-tile plants, so that's larger plants that take up more than one tile. Then I want to implement helper objects, which are going to be objects that you can place in the same tile as a plant to help that plant grow somehow. And then finally I want to implement objects that connect to each other to create larger structures like fences. So not much else to say, just going to get straight into it today. So I thought I'd start off by adding support for multi-tile plants so we can have some bigger plants in the game like fruit bushes. So I've just created a quick model for a fruit bush, and this takes up 4 tiles instead of the usual one, so you can see them here in the game. And first up, I just needed to make sure that all of the health factors work with the multiple tiles. So for things like the watering, the weeds, the compost, it now takes into account all 4 of its home tiles instead of just one tile. So for example, this bush here, you can see it's slightly unhappy with its soil quality because 2 of the 4 tiles here don't have compost, as opposed to this one, which has all 4 tiles full of compost, so it's very happy with the soil quality. So next, I'm just going to make a few more models. I need to make the models for the other growth stages of the berry bush. Here are the finished models for the blueberry bush. I'm pretty happy with how these turned out, and I've got them loaded up in the game here. Also, I thought I'd try having the bushes grow on the grass. I think it kind of makes sense for bushes. One thing that doesn't quite work at the moment though is the planting tool. It wasn't really designed to plant anything bigger than 1 tile, so I need to fix that now. So the placing is all sorted out now. It correctly highlights the 2x2 area where the bush is going to be placed. I also had to spend a bit of extra time getting it working with the dibber tool. So the dibber tool allows you to plant multiple plants at once, and that now works with the bush, although I feel like it should probably give you a bit more of an indication where exactly the bushes are going to be placed, maybe show a preview or something. So I'll implement that at some point. I also made a new icon for the blueberry bush sapling. I thought I'd put it in a pot, so then I could put a picture of a blueberry on the pot, so that when I have other fruit bushes in the game, it will be easier to see which is which. Then I also made a new item for the blueberry, which is what you get when you harvest the blueberry bushes, but I'm not very happy with the harvesting tool, the fruit harvesting tool. I already wasn't that happy with it when I was using it for the tomatoes, because you have to click on the floor on the tile rather than on the plant itself, which was okay for the tomatoes, but for the fruit bushes it feels completely wrong because you're just clicking on the floor in one corner of the area where the blueberry bush is, and that harvests it. So I'll need to fix that, but I'm not going to do it now because if I show you in Trello, the next big update that I'm going to be working on is going to be all about the tool system, so I'll sort that out then. For now though, my work on the multi-tile plants is done. Today I'm moving on to the next new type of object that I want to implement, which is something I'm calling the helper objects. These are objects that you can place in the same tile as a plant to help that plant grow in some way. So the most obvious example would be wooden sticks that you can place in the same tile as a tomato plant to help the tomato plants grow taller. And to start off with this, I need to do a bit of rearranging in the code, because at the moment each tile in the game is only allowed to contain a single object, so I need to make it possible to have multiple objects in a tile as long as those objects are compatible with each other. I've just been adding that wooden pole object to the game, and I created a new component which is the support pole component. doesn't really do anything at the moment apart from providing the code that checks whether another object's compatible with the wooden pole. And you can see that it's compatible with any objects that have the climber component, and at the moment that's just the tomato plants. So let's test this out in the game. Here's the wooden pole item here, and you can see I can place the wooden pole in tiles that are empty. I can also place the wooden pole in tiles that already have a tomato plant in them because they have that compatibility, but I can't place the wooden pole in tiles that have other plants in them or other objects because they're not compatible. And same the other way around with the tomato seeds. I can plant them in empty tiles, or I can plant them in tiles that already have the wooden support in them. Next up, I've been working on the reason why you would actually want to spend the time and money on getting these wooden support poles, and that is that it allows your tomato plants to grow taller and produce more fruit. So in Blender I've just created 2 more model stages for the tomato plant, and then I did a bit of work in the growth component to allow me to cap the growth of the plant at a certain stage. So then in the climber component, depending on whether the support is there or not, I can either cap the growth if there's no support, or I can remove the growth cap and allow the plant to grow to its full height if it's got the support to climb up. So I can show you this working in the game. I've got it all set up here, and I've sped up the time so we can see these growing nice and quickly. And you can see that the tomato plants on the right that don't have the support have only grown to half the height of the ones that have the wooden stake to climb up. But at any time I can give these ones on the right the wooden poles as well, and that will remove the growth cap and allow them to grow to their full potential. I've got this working with the fruiting component now, so I'll show you in the game. I'll grow some of the ones without the support first, so they'll grow to their maximum size, their capped size, and then produce a few tomatoes. Not bad, but let me now grow the ones that have the wooden support to climb up. As we've already seen, they'll climb up and grow to be much taller than the other ones, and then they'll produce tomatoes all the way up their stem, and so you get way more tomatoes, and obviously you'll get a much larger yield when you harvest them. Just made one final little feature for the canes, which is that when you're removing plants from them, there's now a chance that they'll break and need to be replaced. I thought this could open up a few possibilities for future gameplay decisions, like I could have multiple different supports in the game, some more durable than others, which would be more expensive, and also maybe some plants could be heavier than others and have a higher chance of breaking the canes, and then you'd have to decide where you can get away with using the cheap supports and where you'd want to invest in the more sturdy supports. So the final type of object that I want to add support for this week is objects that connect up to form larger structures, such as fences, and that's going to be the example that I'm going to implement today. And I know I did some work with fences last time, but this time it's going to be about fences that you can actually place yourself around your farm. So first up to date, I need to make a few models in Blender. Here's the new fence post item in the game, and this allows you to place fence posts into your farm, which is not bad, but obviously they're not connecting up yet. But in Blender I've created 6 models for the fence posts, and what I need to do next is have each of these fence posts correctly decide on which of those 6 models it should use and which rotation, and if it chooses the correct one, it should hopefully cause all of these fences to connect up nicely, because I made these models in such a way that if you place them next to each other with the correct rotation, they all connect up without any gaps. sure there's a better way of doing this, but this is how I'm now calculating which model each fence post should use. So based on its 4 neighbours, there are 16 possibilities, and I've basically just gone through each one and worked out which model index and which rotation it should be using. So in the game, that has got the fences all connecting up nicely now. It doesn't actually work with the preview yet, but when you place them, they properly connect, and you can now create some fenced off areas in the game. It's working with the preview as well now, so you can see how the fence is going to connect before you've placed it. I also tweaked the model a bit to make it look a little bit cleaner, and obviously there are going to be other fences in the game as well. This won't be the only one, and they'll also have some benefit to your farm, so they'll probably protect your crops from animal damage or something like that. But yeah, pretty much done with the fences now. I'm actually going to do a bit of work on my balcony next. I recently got a new planter, which I'm very excited about, and I just need to prepare that and get it ready for planting. Just been doing a few little tweaks to finish up the day. I actually release the game every month to the Patreon supporters, so I have to keep the game in a kind of polished state. So one bit of feedback that I got from the last release was that the UI was a bit small on some people's displays, so to fix that temporarily, I've made it possible to manually increase or decrease the size of the UI. And then I also recently added some collectibles into the game, where in every release there's a new collectible item to unlock, and I've just been implementing the one for this release, which is a model of one of the sheep from Equilinox. So that's pretty much going to be it for this video. I'm really happy with the progress this week. We've got quite a few new items in the game, and more importantly, I've added support for those different types of objects, which will allow for a lot more variety in the game in the future. Next time I'm going to be moving on to a big update that I've got planned for the tool system, and I'm hoping to get that entire system pretty close to how it's going to be in the final game, so that'll be exciting. Before I finish, I just want to give a big shout out to the top Patreon supporters from last month, who were Coda the Tyler, Ross from 2 Minute Tabletop, Nikat Asgazada, Zanil Ambakar, Atomic Code, Alden Yan, Chris Naismith, Alan Lance, Josiah Hillman, Dieter Reinert, Harry Chung, John Needham, Christopher Poe, Adam Farkas, Hagen Vingard, Matthew Connaughton, Andrew Witt, Marek Mikolajczyk, Sean McCrory, Caffeine Coda, Timothy Gibbons, Alexander Chavez, and Neil Blakey Milner. So a massive thank you to you guys, and of course to everyone else supporting me over on Patreon. For this week though, that is it, so thank you all very much for watching, and I'll see you all again next time.